Alright, it says I'm live, so I should be live unless YouTube is lying to me, which I highly doubt it is, so whatever. I'm barely coherent right now because I did not have a good sleep. I probably shouldn't have chosen to go on live today, but I did, so whatever. Anyway, wait for people to come in. If people do come in, we'll see. But for now, I guess I'll talk about some shit while I wait for people to come on in. Um, no, sorry, I got a message. Just reading something for a second. Um, uh, fuck this year. Fuck 2024. Hate this fucking year. Shared this in my Discord this past weekend. Didn't say anything about it on the channel because it doesn't really, something that I felt was appropriate to bring up in any video I've made this past week. But my uncle, the one who lives in my basement, he's 61, had a stroke last Friday. The right side of his body was paralyzed. Initially, we thought he would have to learn how to speak again and walk essentially from scratch, but the recovery he's been making in the past week has been, or I wouldn't say super speedy, but he's already speaking again, albeit his speech is slurred. But, even still, it's been a really rough time. Um, you know, it's just this fucking year has just been tragedy after tragedy for me, essentially, and it's been really weighing me down. And it happened in a restaurant of all goddamn places. He was with one of the many girlfriends he's met online, and that's when it happened. I mean, it's not entirely an unexpected thing either. Dude never consistently took his medication, his blood pressure medication to be more exact, and this is one of the things he was warned that could possibly happen: a stroke if he didn't take his medication. He has high blood pressure. He has diabetes. All these health problems that you know you would think someone who has health anxiety like him would take seriously, but no, apparently not. So back to the back to having a family member in the hospital and worrying about them, like almost exactly 4 years ago with my grandmother when she was in the hospital. Again, this 2024 has just been nonstop fun for me. I am kidding, of course. Hello, Luna. Hello, hero of what? How are you two doing on this? Hopefully for you, fine Friday. Again, things are not so fine for me. And like I said before, people tuned in, I did not have a good sleep last night either. I've never had any chronic issues with insomnia, but it seems like at least once or twice a month I have that one night where I just barely get any sleep. I really shouldn't say night. I fall asleep like fucking 6 in the morning and I wake up at like 2 in the afternoon. So I just sleep through the morning essentially, but you know what I mean. So we'll see how I am throughout the duration of this stream. I'm very low energy. No, more low energy than I usually am. Best regards for you, Mikey. Thank you. I saw some of that press conference Biden did yesterday. I didn't watch the whole thing. I mean, with everything that's been going on this past week, to be honest, I really didn't want to be that in tune with politics because it's really just a nonstop doomer cycle. With in regards to you know Biden and his viability when it comes to beating Trump in November. Ever since that debate a few weeks ago or 2 weeks ago, it was, I'm pretty sure, where Biden performed absolutely abysmally. He was this. It's just been a nonstop cycle of Biden should drop out. He is not viable to beat Trump in November. And I mean, I wish I had some kind of solution, but I really don't. I don't know if if dropping Biden just less than 4 months before election day is really the wisest choice. But really, what other alternative do we have at this point? He's just a fucking bumbling old man who's barely coherent, can barely get through a sentence. And that press conference yesterday didn't really do him any favors. I mean, from the clips I saw, his performance wasn't absolutely rock bottom like it was during that debate. I mean, I think he did relatively okay, at least, when it comes to, Biden standards. But he had two major gaffes, one where he accidentally called Zelensky Putin, and the other where he referred to Kamala as Vice President Trump. And those are going to be the only two things most people remember from that press conference. And that press conference was supposed to be where Biden brought his A game. It's supposed to be the press conference where Biden proves that he is still, at least efficient mentally at handling another 4 years of the presidency. And he absolutely fumbled the ball again. And I'm not really that surprised. I figured, I didn't think Biden was going to knock it out of the park and give this surprise performance where he was completely coherent. But, to the rest of the people who don't really pay that much of attention to politics, who already have major concerns when it comes to Biden's cognitive ability, how are they going to be enticed to vote for this guy in November? Like I said in that video where I talked about his debate performance, he had that fun grandpa energy back in 2020. I mean, I personally never really cared about that, but to a lot of people, he had that fun grandpa energy to him. And what did I say in that video? He has the energy of a grandpa who's about to enter his final stages of dementia. Again, the guy can barely get through a fucking sentence, and this is supposed to be the guy who's gonna square off against Trump in November. This is really the best we could come up with. It's just so frustrating and depressing. We have Project 2025 on one side of the aisle, a guy who attempted a fucking coup when he lost an election fair and square. 4 years later, still denying the results of said election, who is now a convicted felon on top of all of that. You would think this election would be a slam dunk for the Democrats, but of course, the DNC had to put up a feeble old man, someone who was already showing signs of cognitive decline back in 2020. And it's so much worse now. Again, I don't know. I don't really have many answers when it comes to what we should even do. I mean, of course, there's the crowd who is of people who are saying that we need to replace Biden and install maybe Kamala or someone else. But This is really something the DNC should have been doing a year ago. Not fucking, not less than 4 months before the election. And just know that Republicans would have a fucking field day with that. They would be screaming from the rooftops how incompetent the DNC is. Oh, they had this candidate they were hitching their wagon to, but then all of a sudden they had to drop said candidate because he was doing so badly in polls. Yet here we are. We're proud to, have Trump represent our party. We have no intention of dropping him. He's coherent. It's just a shit show. What has the chat been saying? I don't know. I've just been on like a 5-minute rant about Biden and the DNC. I didn't see it. Well, I didn't see the entirety of the press conference either. I might maybe later today or tomorrow. I do want to see the whole thing again. I watched beyond the two clips that everyone's been sharing around again, where Biden calls Zelensky Putin and calls Kamala Harris Trump. And outside of those two gaffes, I mean, he didn't do amazing, of course, but he wasn't, it wasn't exactly the abysmal performance we saw in the debate a few weeks ago. Just, about what you'd expect from Biden, him fumbling over words, but, not sounding completely dead. Sending good vibes your way. Thank you. I appreciate the kind words. Sup, bro? Hello, Robert. How you doing today? Hello, Eco Punk. How are you doing too? Hello, Carson. How are all of you doing? I should really shut up and pay attention to the chat more. Yeah, like that's ever gonna happen. You know how I am during these streams. I could go off on fucking like 5-minute plus long tangents and spend like an exorbitant amount of time on just one message. I remember when Biden said to play a record player at night back in 2020. Forgot about that. I can't get too mad about that though. I love vinyls. When it comes to physical music, I like listening to vinyls. I don't really do vinyl collecting anymore. The last time I bought a vinyl was either 2021 or 2022. I used to be really big into vinyl collecting when I was a teenager, when I was like 15, 16, and I just kind of lost interest. I think the vinyl collecting got overtaken by GameCube collecting, but now I don't really do GameCube collecting that much anymore either because, like I've said before, I pretty much have all of the games that I wanted the most for the GameCube, barring the games I really want but are so fucking expensive, like Chibi Robo. But again, for the most part, I have all the GameCube games that I want. But vinyl collecting is something I don't know if I'll go back to. It's just such an expensive hobby. Yeah. But I do like in the year 2024, vinyl is at least somewhat relevant. There are people still going out and buying vinyls, at least just for the novelty of owning an album on vinyl. It's funny that vinyl just has outlived CDs. Like my local Target, the DVD, the CD section has been getting increasingly smaller and smaller, and it's been getting overtaken by the vinyl section, which just a few weeks ago I went to Target. There were a bunch of teen girls looking at the vinyl section because there were Taylor Swift vinyls there. I mean, I don't really care for Taylor Swift as an artist and not really as a person either, but I thought it was cool to see people who are even younger than me, checking out vinyls, having an interest in them. I tried looking at the section though. the good they had some good stuff there, but it was already stuff I owned, and aside from that, nothing really interested me in the um, vinyl section. Hello, Baldy Air Kid. Trump's VP choices are some nobody governor, J.D. Vance and Marco Rubio. I wonder when I'm guessing he's saving. He's saving his VP announcement for the Republican convention. When is that again? It's coming up soon. I know that. July 15th in Milwaukee. They even have a little countdown on their on the website. 2 days, 7 hours, 27 minutes. Yay! I don't think I'll be watching any of that. I'm guessing that's when a VP is going to be announced, or at least that's ideally when a VP should be announced. It'd be really funny if the Republican convention was all about, how incompetent Biden is, and then immediately after the Republican convention, that's when the DNC pulls the rug out from under them and says, "Hey, we're replacing Biden with someone else." But yeah, as hilarious as that would be, this is the DNC we're talking about, so I wouldn't expect them to do something that funny. Doing good. How about you? Not. I'm not the best, but thank you for asking. I'm good. I'm going to a birthday celebration in about 20 minutes. Oh, so have fun at your well, not your birthday party, but the birthday party of whoever it is, and happy birthday to them, if it even is their birthday today. I'm getting a new phone soon because I've had my current one for almost 8 years, and the battery is bugging out. Jesus, 8 years. That's something. It's pretty old for phone years. The longest I've ever had a phone was my very first phone, an iPhone 6 that I got back in 2014, Christmas of 2014. It's still in one of the cabinets over there. I've told the story before. I had it for 4 years. I think it was 2018 was when it finally crapped out. For like a few months before I stopped using the phone, it was like borderline unusable. The battery would die in less than a normal school day, and by the time I would get home, the battery would be already down to like 20%, or maybe even less than that. There would be times where the phone would randomly shut off, and then it would take like an hour for it to finally turn back on. Um, it was really buggy too. It was overall a very horrible experience using that phone in the last few months. And then one day it shut off and it didn't turn back on again. I went to the Apple store and they said the phone was fucked essentially. And I got an iPhone 8. I couldn't trade in the phone because at the time we presumed the phone was dead. And then a few years later, I find the phone again in a closet somewhere. I think in the downstairs closet. I don't know how the fuck it got there. I plugged it in again and it turned back on. I even filmed a video on that. I'm pretty sure, and I think I uploaded it onto YouTube. I'm glad I still have the phone though. I mean, when it did turn back on, no shit, the battery would last only like probably 10 minutes, so it had to always be plugged in. But it's just it's sitting in one of the cabinets over there, like I said before. And it's cool to have because a lot of my earliest, well, not my earliest videos were filmed on an iPod Touch, but a lot of my old videos were made on that iPhone 6. So it's cool to be able to still have it. A lot of I guess nostalgia is tied to that phone. The Biden and Trump debate was a joke, an absolute fucking joke. I mean, like I said before, is this really the best we have against Trump? A bumbling old man who barely knows where the fuck he is, can barely string together a sentence. It's just, like I said, it's really fucking depressing. He's probably gonna lose to Trump in November unless the DNC shit cans. I mean, even then, I don't know if replacing a what if replacing an incumbent just 4 months before an election, after the said incumbent says he's staying in the race, you know is going to guarantee a victory. But I'd say any other candidate is probably has a better shot at beating Trump than Biden at this point. Again, this country is just a fucking joke. Got it for Christmas in 2016. I was 13 in 8th grade. What kind of phone is it? Is it an iPhone or Galaxy or any type of other phone? Every day my phone has been randomly rebooting itself when I click on something, but it's okay right now when it's on charge. Sounds similar to my my iPhone 6 that I just mentioned, except it wouldn't reboot, it would just shut off out of nowhere. And again, there were times where it would shut off and had to wait like half hour for it to charge back up again, have enough charge to turn back on, even though the battery wasn't even fully dead before the phone just decided to shut off. And then one day it just shut off and didn't turn back on again. I had an iPhone 10R for 3 years. The first ever phone I got was an iPhone 4 back in 2013. Yeah, I didn't have a phone back in 2013. The only I had an iPad back then, iPad 2. When did that come out? 2012, 2011. I still have that iPad too. I'm pretty sure I've shown it off before. I used to make really embarrassing videos on that iPad. I tried to do comedy skits on an old YouTube channel that doesn't exist anymore. I've already explained the fate of that channel so many times on this channel, so I don't need to repeat myself. I used to really like fucking around with the feature on iMovie where you can make fake film trailers. I mean, I've even done that on this channel a few times. Like I did one with Charlie back in like 2015 or 16, either one of those 2 years. Um, but I used to love doing that a lot as a kid, and I would upload them onto YouTube, and they'd all get like, I don't know, 5 views. Samsung Galaxy S7. Oh, well. I don't know if it's Galaxy, if it's the Galaxy brand he likes exactly, but my dad vastly prefers Android over iOS. He tried out an iPhone for a few years. He just his plan was up and he wanted to see what iOS was like, and he said it was so restrictive compared to Android, and he said he was definitely switching back after his plan was up with that iPhone. I think he had an iPhone 10, I believe, maybe 11. I don't know. But he fucking hated his iPhone. He says he doesn't understand the appeal, why so many people buy iPhones. But I guess good on him for still wanting to try out iOS. Most people just, stick to what they know and not even want to get a different phone brand. Like me, I mean, I'm so used to iOS. I don't know if I'd ever want to switch to Android one day because I'm just so used to Apple's ecosystem. I remember when the is a good idea to microwave this guy made a rant on the original iPad and it made some people angry. Is it? I don't know what the fuck a good idea to microwave this is. Was that one? Were they one of those channels that like put shit in the microwave and see what happens? Like that fucking channel with the guy in the blender that was big back in the day. He'd put like iPhones and iPads and shit in a blender. Like, ooh, what would happen if you put an expensive device in a blender? Ooh, it breaks. So riveting. I love my iPad. I've had it for 5 years, but its storage is dog shit. The iPad I had when I was a kid only had 16 gigabytes of storage, and even back then, that was a pitiful amount of storage because I filled that shit up so quick. I was a heavy app downloader back then, also a heavy music downloader back then, and I still download my share of music, but at this point, I pretty much have all the music I'm most interested in, so I don't download in music as much as I used to back then, but I filled that up really, really quick. And Apple kept around 16 gigabytes for a while. When did they finally kill that off? Like only 6 or 7 years ago. And I had an iPod Nano. I'm pretty sure it was the very first iPod Nano. It was white. It only had 2 gigabytes of storage. I think I only had like, I don't know, 150 songs saved on that. I still have it, but the screen is fucked. I think a bunch of the pixels died, and you can barely fucking see what's on the screen these days. It's a little sentimental though because my father gave that to me. But now I have my iPhone that has 256 gigabytes of storage, and I still have over 100 gigabytes of free storage. So I'm in no danger of filling it up. I'm not that heavy of an app downloader these days. I don't download music all that much these days either. Aside from when I was finally listening to Bob Dylan's discography, and he has like over 40 fucking albums. So aside from that, I haven't downloaded much music. Photos, I have Google Photos. I have my whenever I take a picture, it automatically backs up to Google Photos. So what I do when I take a picture or a video on my phone, I just back it up to Google Photos and then immediately delete the picture and video. So I have no worries when it comes to that. I'm filling up my storage either. I've only used Android phones. First was a Nexus 5X, then the Galaxy S9 Plus. Now I have a Pixel 7 Pro. Yeah. Again, I don't know if I'll ever own an Android phone. Again, I'm pretty content with iOS. I know it's supposedly restrictive. Android gives you so much more freedom. Whatever. That'll just fall on deaf ears. I'm fine with what I'm used to. I really can't stand people who, feel the need to shame other people all because they prefer to use a different fucking phone operating system. I would hope that's not much of a thing anymore, but I wouldn't be surprised if people still argued over iOS and Android and all that shit because people still do it with consoles. Like damn near every PlayStation tweet I look at, which I mean I don't look at PlayStation tweets all that often, but whenever I do, I go down and you know you don't have to scroll that far to see someone say Xbox better, PlayStation is garbage. Like what are you accomplishing participating in console war bullshit in the year 2024? I'm sure it's no different if you go to Xbox's Twitter. You probably don't have to scroll that far under an Xbox tweet to see PlayStation better, Xbox is garbage. Just keep playing on your preferred piece of plastic and shut the fuck up. Like some people are just perpetually stuck mentally in middle school. Though I got a smartphone. Before I got a smartphone, I was using a flip phone and had to refill the minutes from cards from the store. Oh god. Yeah, I missed out on the flip phone days or the keypad phone days. Like, my mom had this BlackBerry before she got her first iPhone. I believe her first iPhone was the iPhone 5, not the 5S, the regular 5. It was before the 5S came out. I think just a few months before the 5S came out. And when was that? 2012, 2013, another one of those 2 years. But yeah, she had this BlackBerry with the ugly ass keypad on it. I remember using that phone a couple of times, and even back then I had really fat fingers. I was like 11 or 12, and yeah, it wasn't fun to use. But she had a really hard time adjusting to an iPhone at first. She was like, "I need my keypad. Why? I can't get used to this touch screen." But she adjusted, and to this day, she still uses an iPhone, and she's able to use it just fine. I remember my uncle. I think he was the first one in the house to get a smartphone. It wasn't an iPhone. I think it was called the BlackBerry Touch. Back in like I don't know, probably 2008. I remember thinking it was the coolest thing back then because I wasn't used to seeing a phone with no buttons. and just a screen. I had a friend in elementary school. He had one of those phones that had the one of those phones where you where you could where the keyboard was under the screen and you flipped the screen up and there was the keyboard. He had one of those phones. I remember those being big back in the day too. That was a thing. What was a thing? I forgot what I was talking about when he wrote that message. My first iPad only had 32 gigabytes of storage. Well, that's definitely better than the iPad I had back then. Again, I only had 16 gigabytes of storage back then, and I filled that up within, I don't know, maybe a few months. I got that iPad for Christmas, and I'd say probably by like March or April, or maybe a little later than that. Um, I filled up that storage because again, even 10 plus years ago, 16 gigabytes was a pitiful amount of storage. I'm so glad that Apple no longer sells 16 gigabyte models of their devices. I mean, how could they these days with how much storage apps take up these days? How do you listen to music now? I'm just like anyone else. I listen to music through a streaming service. My streaming service of choice is Apple Music. I was kind of I mean, I wouldn't say I was forced to use Apple Music. It's more just, I didn't go with Spotify or any other streaming service, mainly just out of convenience because years before I signed up for Apple Music, I think I started using Apple Music in 2016. I got my iPad in 2011, I think. My iPad too, and that's when I started actually buying songs off of iTunes. I remember my mom and uncle would buy me iTunes cards back in the day. I wonder if those still exist. To buy music because I was a heavy music downloader back then. And again, streaming services didn't exist yet, so you couldn't just, click download. You actually had to spend money to fucking um, buy music, to download music, I mean, off of iTunes. And sorry, I got a comment notification. It just um, took me off track for a second there. Again, I barely slept last night, so I'm not exactly all there mentally. Anyway, so I had a huge library of music that I, downloaded off iTunes over the course of years before Apple Music even existed. And you know, um, when I finally wanted to make that jump from iTunes to a streaming service, I mean, Apple Music was kind of the no-brainer for me because all of my iTunes music would still be there, and I wouldn't have to use two separate services to listen to music. So I use Spotify for most of my music. Yeah, most of the people I know use Spotify. I think only like a couple of friends of mine, at least in real life, use Apple Music. I mean, isn't Apple Music the second most popular streaming service? I know Spotify is the clear winner in terms of, users. But pretty sure Apple Music isn't that far behind. I don't think. I have some CDs as well. Not too many. I mean, most of the CDs we have are in my mom's car. She likes listening to CDs sometimes. She has a car that's was manufactured in 2005. Yeah, that's what it says on her car. It's a Toyota, a Corolla, I think. Um, and so yeah, it doesn't have any it doesn't have Bluetooth or any of those fancy schmancy features because she got it from a family friend, someone who I considered to be a grandpa who died back in 2012. So, his car predates all of that shit. So, we just, if we want to listen to music and not be beholden by the radio, we just um, listen to one of the CDs she has in her car. There's a really good music store that we live right by that sells CDs for like dirt cheap because they're all used. The dude who owns it has owned that store since pretty much when my mom was a teenager. That store has been around for decades. I don't know who's worse, EDP 445 or Bogey 2988. For me, that's easy. I mean, the dude who wanted to meet up with someone who he thought was a 13-year-old girl to, you know, to have sex with her. I mean, yeah, lying about having cancer is absolutely horrible. And EDP is not EDP. Boogie is a absolute fucking scumbag for doing that. But still, for me, the choice is pretty easy between the two. Unless Boogie ever gets caught doing something like that, I mean, I wouldn't be entirely surprised, considering the girl he is currently with is what didn't she just like turn 20? I'm calling it now. Boogie's current girlfriend, that relationship is gonna crash and burn, maybe within a few years, and then they're probably gonna get a Google Doc or an expose video from her talking about just how fucking awful her experience was dating Boogie. Who cares what console people prefer? They're just gaming consoles and made for entertainment. I mean, yeah, that's my philosophy too. Who gives a shit? It's all just video games. It's trivial bullshit at the end of the day. They're just luxury devices made for your entertainment, but some people treat these pieces of plastic like they're fucking family members or some shit, and they have to defend them to the death. They have to defend their favorite pieces of plastic anytime someone says anything remotely negative about them. It's pathetic. I remember when K-pop stans would troll people on Twitter by bringing up the fact the person they're replying sent the tweet from an Android. Oh, what an own. I mean, who fucking cares? I'd be like, yeah, I sent the tweet on an Android. So what? K-pop stands. I remember when Twitter used to be infested with them. I mean, Probably still is if you look at certain corners of Twitter, but I remember you'd go under any fucking tweet and you'd see like fan cams of someone's favorite K-pop star under a tweet that has absolutely fucking nothing to do with K-pop. But you'd still see that shit like infesting replies. I wonder how the phone market would be if the Windows Phone never failed. I don't know. I mean, I barely know anything about the Windows Phone. I heard of it, but and I never knew anyone who owned it or, really knew that much about it. I remember when I'd see advertisements for it, though. I think it was supposed to be hailed as like the iPhone killer, but that never fucking happened. Same thing with the what's that thing called? The Zune. Anyone fucking heard of this thing? It was supposed to be Microsoft's answer to the iPod, and I remember back in the day people would hail it as the iPod killer because it had all these features that the iPod didn't, but lo and behold, it failed. Because people are just so used to the brands that they've been using for years. Did any of my teachers ever use the freaky font? What the fuck is the freaky font? Oh, this font. No, I don't think so, at least. No, I don't. I mean, I don't remember. I was last in high school 5 years ago, so I don't remember most attempts any of my teachers had at being cool with the kids. Oh God. Now that I just said that, I reminded myself of one time. Remember that meme like 7 years ago? What was it called? Ugandan Knuckles. Remember? Remember an English teacher I had back then was saying she wasn't doing this in front of the whole class at least, but I remember her saying, "Do you know the way to?" One of the students just um I remember when that meme was really big for like, I don't know, 2 minutes. I was on about the destroying phones for clicks on YouTube. Oh, yeah, that was a really big thing back in like the 2010s. Remember that one guy, Tech Rex? I mean, he got like over like, I don't know, 5 million subscribers or some shit, running over iPhones or shooting them with guns or throwing them off staircases. I'm gonna throw this iPhone off of a fucking 20-story building. I wonder what will happen to it. Oh my God, it broke. Didn't expect that to happen. She recently turned 21 and Boogie is turning 50 in a few weeks. Yeah, that's not creepy at all. I mean, I've seen some people say that the people who have concerns regarding the age gap between Boogie and his girlfriend are just pearl clutching. And I have to ask, do you really see no problem with the fact that a 50-year-old is dating someone who is just barely out of their teen years? I mean, what do these two people have in common? The dude is old enough to be her father. When she was born, he was already like 29, 30. I mean, yeah, sure, it's legal. He's not going to go to jail for fucking her because she is over the age of 18, but that doesn't mean I don't have any moral qualms with the fact that he's dating someone who, again, is just, barely out of her teen years. I give it a couple of months and then Boogie's girlfriend will leave him. Maybe, but I mean, with how attached she is to him currently, I mean, if you watch that documentary, she's like, I would do anything for him. I don't even care if he cheats on me. She's just infatuated with the guy, at least right now. That's why I said a few years because she's probably gonna mature a little bit more, realize God, what the fuck am I doing with my life, and then finally grow some sense and leave him. But as of right now, she's just in that honeymoon phase, and this is probably the first serious relationship she's ever been in. What kind of life experience has she even had? At this point at this point in her life. She doesn't really have any. She probably doesn't have any normal relationships to compare this to. They're not married yet, are they? I remember them talking about marriage in the documentary. I think I would have heard about that if they did marry. Hopefully they don't. I mean, this just further proves my point about why it's not wise to. I mean, if they do get married, I mean, it would just further prove my point that it's not wise to get married when you're just like barely in your 20s. I knew literally one person who owned a Windows phone. Well, that's one more person than the amount of people I knew that owned a Windows phone. If you have the dislike extension, Boogie's most recent video has 7.8k dislikes versus had a little burp there. Versus 979 dislikes. I mean, likes. Yeah, that's about what I expected. I mean, I'm sure every Boogie video these days is disliked to oblivion. Because at this point, I mean, how many people like Boogie? I mean, I remember back when I made that Boogie 2988 sucks video all those years ago. I got disliked out the ass because that was back when he had a sizable audience. Back when people saw him as the nicest guy on YouTube, but ever since now that facade is completely crashed and burned, and everyone knows exactly what kind of piece of shit he is. I mean, even before it came out that he was lying about his cancer, how many people actually still liked him? I mean, his reputation has been in the grave for years at this point. She was only 3 years old when Boogie joined YouTube, too. Oh, God. I didn't even think about how old she would have been when he created his channel. Jesus fucking Christ. That really does put things into perspective even further. Yeah, I remember when the documentary was showing like baby pictures of her and like pictures of her as a little girl. I was thinking when they were flashing those images, Boogie was already in his 30s when these pictures were taken. And you're really gonna tell me there's no issue whatsoever with the fact that a 50-year-old is dating someone who has barely any life experience, someone who just, who is just fresh out of their fucking teen years. Like you don't at the very least find that a little weird. I don't think that's pearl clutching. There's a very clear imbalance of maturity and power there. But okay, all right. Yeah. I guess if your morality solely revolves around what is illegal or legal, then I guess you wouldn't see any problems there. But I have to definitely question your morals. She needs a therapist over Boogie. Yeah, I've heard she has a lot of issues. I don't know much about the girl. I don't really keep up with the latest Boogie antics unless, something big like him faking cancer comes out. I mean, I don't really care about the lol cow shit all that much. I've never given a shit about people like DSP Gaming or Wings of Redemption or Chris Chan. Like, I've never given a shit about any of that because I'm just like, what's the entertainment value in constantly fixating on a person, on a stupid person online? But Boogie is kind of a special case. Not that I fixated on every facet of his life or every facet of his online life, at least. But every once in a while, I check in and see what Boogie's been up to. Only because his fall from grace has really intrigued me. Because this guy was once a beloved channel, probably one of the most beloved channels on YouTube, I should say. He has millions of subscribers. Meanwhile, people like DSP and Wings of Redemption, I'm pretty sure, were always seen as jokes. They were never mainstream YouTubers like Boogie was. But Boogie's downfall has always really intrigued me because, like I said, he was one of the most beloved channels on YouTube. He was really big in his heyday. He got like 500K to 1 million views per video at his peak. I just never seen a YouTuber crash and burn like Boogie has. Of course there are definitely worse people on this website, but most of those people were never mainstream YouTubers like he was. I mean, the dude got a fucking gaming award one year for being like most wholesome gamer on the internet or some shit like that, best gamer on the internet or some shit. He wasn't some obscure dude that was always seen as a joke. So that's why his downfall has always kind of intrigued me. Again, I've never paid attention to, everything Boogie does or anything like that, but you know, every once in a while I'm like, what has he been up to? I think Boogie brainwashed her. Well, he is definitely manipulating her. I mean, again, this is a girl who has no real life experience. She's probably never been in a committed relationship before Boogie. So it's probably easier for him to take advantage of her. Tech Rex also made videos filling a car gas tank with Coca-Cola, paint, liquid nitrogen, Clorox bleach, Tide laundry detergent, and antifreeze. And let me guess, the car didn't run anymore. Wow. Totally didn't expect that outcome. I don't know how. I never got the entertainment value for videos like that back when that shit was at its peak. Always thought I never liked Tech Rex's channel because it was always like the most absurd shit. Like, let's throw this iPhone 8 in lava. Let's see what happens. Oh my god, it doesn't work anymore. Oh my god, it melted. Wow. Didn't expect that to happen. I'm kind of glad that shit went out of style, or at least I think it did. I don't see those videos um, recommended to me nearly as much as they were back in their heyday. I once owned a Windows phone myself, and I remember playing some Minecraft and COD Zombies clone on it. Was it a good phone at least? Because I know next to nothing about the Windows phone besides it was just a phone that existed that tried to compete with the iPhone but failed miserably. And again, I never knew anyone with a Windows phone, so I don't really know what people's experience with the Windows phone were like. I remember when Boogie was on a crusade saying video games should be fun earlier this year and grifting on the Sweet Baby Inc. stuff because he would say he's at the point where he'll say anything for any sliver of relevancy. Just like his cancer diagnosis, he knew that would get people's attention because there's no shortage of videos on this website where people talk about their cancer and get a shitload of views. Not to say there's anything inherently wrong when you're diagnosed with a serious illness and making a video about it. But in Boogie's case, he saw that these videos rake in a lot of views. He wanted some of that for himself. And before even getting an official confirmation that he has a form of cancer, he goes right to his fucking webcam and says, "Oh my god, I have cancer. Please donate money to me. Please invest in my pump and dump Bitcoin." And that's a clear difference between him and a lot of, other people who have talked about their cancer or other serious illnesses they may have on this website. None of them have ever shilled a fucking pump and dump scheme. I mean, sure, some may have like GoFundMe's or whatever, but that's normal. If they don't have the funds for medical bills and they're trying to raise funds, if they're trying to, you know, if they're trying to get, people to donate to their GoFundMe's and such, I mean, that's fine, of course. I have no issue with that, but it's obvious Boogie just, um, it's obvious Boogie has used his supposed cancer just as a card to pull for sympathy and to grift money off of the like 3 fans he had left. But yeah, the Sweet Baby Inc. stuff. I mean, that shit kind of died pretty quickly. I don't hear anything about that anymore. They were taking the video game industry by storm, supposedly, and then after like I don't know 2 weeks, I stopped hearing anything about that. Did you hear they're doing a documentary on EDP? Yeah, I think the same guy who made the documentary on Boogie is planning to make a documentary on EDP, and I have no plans of watching the EDP documentary. That's someone I think we should probably stop paying attention to. I really don't care about the day-to-day life of a child predator, even if his life is like hysterically awful, every day is just constant failure for him. I have no interest in seeing that. Windows Phone was decent. It was nothing that special. Yeah, I figured that would that would be your experience. But yeah, I remember seeing advertisements for the Windows Phone back when that was out. They really tried to push the Windows Phone, and it was pretty much Microsoft's answer to the iPhone, but that never really ended up happening. I remember Apple made a phone before the iPhone. I think it was called iTunes Phone, or it wasn't even really an Apple made phone. I think it was some collaboration between them and Nokia, I believe. They made this phone that could only hold up to 100 songs, and it was one of those phones with the awful keypads. And I remember even Steve Jobs. I mean, usually he could make a fucking turd seem, you know, tempting to buy, but even he on stage, you could tell he really didn't give a fuck about this product. I remember when Microsoft made ads comparing the Surface to iPads. Oh yeah, the Surface. Actually, my uncle has a Surface. It's in his room. He even still has the little mouse that came with it. He used it for a little bit, like I don't know, 9 years ago, and ever since then, it's just been sitting in his room, rotting away. Microsoft even still makes Surfaces. I remember when Apple made their "I'm a Mac" and "I'm a PC" ads. Yeah, I remember those too. I think I saw those on TV a couple of times. I don't know. Microsoft has always been kind of hit or miss when it comes to hardware. I mean, their hardware usually doesn't really take off. Their software, of course, is a different story. Like, every most PCs have Windows, and of course they have Microsoft Office as well. You know, that's that's pretty much essential in colleges and office spaces and such. But hardware, I mean, the Windows Phone never took off. The Zune never took off. The Surface, I mean, I don't know how much of a success that was or is. And of course, there's the Xbox brand, but even then, I mean, you can tell Microsoft kind of wants to, you know, put all their eggs in the GameSpot basket as opposed to, selling more Xbox units. Gamergate has killed internet media discourse. Yeah, that's why. I mean, Gamergate has really poisoned the minds of so many people online. It's the birth of all this anti woke shit. That's why outside of a very select few channels, I don't pay that much attention to the gaming community on YouTube, or at least like the gaming news, gaming commentary community, because it's plagued with that shit. Oh my god, this game stars a female. It's woke. This video game character is a person of color, or they're trans, or they're gay, or they're lesbian. Oh my god, I can't believe they're injecting all this woke shit in our video games. How dare they? Like that's so much of the discourse that plagues the gaming community. And I'm not going to say that it makes me ashamed to be someone who plays video games, because I know, obviously, gaming community is so fucking broad and huge, comprising of, I'd imagine mostly people who don't give a shit about that kind of stuff. But still, when it comes to, gaming discourse online, that shit is it's just fucking filled with that shit. And it's so fucking frustrating. I really don't want to associate with so much of the gaming community, because it's so slanted to the right. It has all these fucking idiots whining about the most inconsequential bullshit. Like, again, oh my god, this character is LGBT. Oh my god, this character is black. Oh my god, this character is a woman. And yet they claim to not be racist, sexist, homophobic, transphobic, or at least most of them claim not to be, or some of them. We just hate forced diversity. Yeah, sure, buddy. Microsoft still makes the Surface. There's also going to be PCs with processors designed for their Copilot AI. Today I learned the Surface is still in production. Unrelated, but do you know anything about the Palestine boycotting? What boycott specifically are you referring to? I know there are several boycotts relating to the genocide in Gaza. What, that Starbucks one from a few months ago? Microsoft changed the tiers for Game Pass and is hiking the prices. One tier doesn't have day one games. I heard about that. All that good press they had after that really good showcase they had last month is pretty much gone with that news. They always find a way to fumble the ball. I mean, I really don't care for the Game Pass model, because it was kind of proven with the shutdown of that studio that made Hi-Fi Rush, what was it, last month or 2 months ago, that the Game Pass model isn't exactly lucrative. You're not going to have great sales for your games, especially if you're a smaller studio like that one was. Because when you have your games show up on a service day one for free for those who do sign up for the service, more people are more likely to download the game through said service, not pay for anything, and therefore actual game sales for the games that studio develops is not going to be great. And yet Microsoft punishes the studio for something that is completely out of their control and shuts them down. And I really want to play Hi-Fi Rush one of these days. It's a really, really good game. Recently got ported over to PlayStation, so I should give it a go one of these days. But it's bullshit though that happened. Same studio made the Evil Within games. I played the Evil Within 1 a few months ago. I thought it was okay. Didn't care for it all that much. I heard the sequel is a lot better. Still have yet to play that one. If Metroid released today, it would be called woke because of the face reveal ending. It absolutely would. You mean to tell me the person who was inside this armor this whole time was a woman? Oh my god, I can't believe Nintendo would go full woke. It's just so fucking ridiculous. Like, It's to the point where if your game stars a woman, even if the game isn't fucking out yet, it's immediately written off as woke. Or if your game has a trans character, or even if they think your game might have a trans character, like, well, I mean, The Last of Us 2 did have a trans character, but I remember when the game leaked, a lot of plot points of the game leaked, and the Last of Us 2 had Abby, the girl with the big muscles, that people immediately assumed she was the trans character. like, like I have my problems with some of the plot points in that game, but none of it is rooted in the homophobia and transphobia and just overall bigotry. A lot of the people who are the most vocal about their hatred for that game, are, or that none of that is has any bearing in any problems I have with that game. But I still enjoy the game regardless. Did you hear that E3 is dead? Yes, I did hear that E3 is dead. I mean, that came out like what, a few months ago, that E3 is officially no longer going to be a thing. I mean, it's not entirely unexpected, though. I mean, before E3 officially closed, Nintendo, Microsoft, and Sony weren't doing showcases at E3 anymore. They were just doing their own thing, their own live presentations on their own YouTube channels. So, I mean, E3 was already essentially dead for a long time at this point. It's just that it finally became official a few months ago. Which is too bad. I'm gonna miss E3. I know we still have the E3 season, like every June is when Nintendo, Microsoft, and Sony have their big showcases, but it's just not the same. I mean, Nintendo hasn't done E3 in over a decade, but still. Brands like McDonald's, Starbucks, and Coca-Cola is supporting Israel and Amazon. I mean, I heard about the Starbucks boycott, but I thought it was just because um wasn't necessarily them supporting Israel outright. At least it was more just, I think, a sector of Starbucks employees were using Starbucks' logo when during their protests against Israel or something like that, or like using their brand image, something like that. And Starbucks never officially took a hard stance on the genocide in Gaza. I mean, it doesn't really surprise me that major corporations support Israel, though. I mean, Israel has, I mean, at this point, all the major politicians and, I mean, Israel is one of the major allies of this country. I'm sure a lot of our politicians and corporations and such, it's in their special interest to vocally support Israel. Or be loud in their support for Israel. Fox News tried to call modern Star Trek woke a while back, even though Star Trek has always been progressive and diverse since the 1960s. They had one of the first interracial kisses on TV, too. Yeah, I've heard about Star Trek being pretty progressive for its time. Never watched Star Trek, though. But, well, no, that's a lie. I've seen some Star Trek episodes because, my uncle watched some. I mean, there'd be reruns that would air on TV, and he'd watch them sometimes. And sometimes I'd watch along with them, though it didn't really capture my interest all that much. Um, yeah, it doesn't surprise me. I mean, everything that's several decades old is pretty much grandfathered in at this point. Even if those pieces of media were progressive for their time, I mean, it doesn't really matter. Whoa. My Boogie 2988 video, my latest one, has 659 views. Where did that come from? Well, I mean, I know where it came from. It's a hot topic at this point, but, well, I haven't checked that video since last night, and last night it had like 150 views or whatever. Cool. All in the Family, a show that conservatives always rave about because they think that show speaks for them, also had a interracial kiss in it. Even had a trans character in it, and that character wasn't the butt of jokes either. But no, that show is totally anti woke and totally made to trigger the libs, quote unquote. Never got the chance to go to E3. Damn. Yeah, I never got that chance either. But I mean, I never really cared that much about going to E3, so it's not that big of a loss to me. I just kind of miss the hype surrounding E3. And in 1995, Star Trek Deep Space Nine had one of the first lesbian kisses on TV. Yeah, I mean, if that aired today, it would no doubt be lambasted as woke, forced diversity. What is this stream about? Whatever the fuck the chat brings up, I'm totally beholden to whatever shit the chat feels like talking about. These are just casual streams where I interact with the chat. There's no like set topics. But hello, Namen however the fuck you pronounce your username. I probably butchered that. I'm sorry. Welcome to the stream if you do decide to stay. Whoa, I've been streaming for an hour and 23 minutes. Fuck. um, time flies when you're having fun, I suppose. I mean, I think it's every stream where I just completely lose track of time and not pay attention to the little timer in the left hand corner, but a top left hand corner, and then I'm surprised and when I see that I've been going on for over an hour. Do you find it kind of sad that Pride Month has become the time that homophobes come out? What do you mean, pro- like homophobes, like Pride Month becoming the month where homophobes talk about their hatred for the LGBT community, or at least it's most vocal about their hatred for the LGBT community? I mean, it's kind of expected at this point with how vocal a lot of right wingers, or at least prominent right wing pundits and YouTubers and such, are with their bigotry against the LGBT community. Like that lady I made that response to, or kind of sort of response to, last week. Melanie Mack. She made that Pride Month video where she talked about how gay people are sinners or some shit. I mean, it's just so silly to me. Like I said in that video, like it's nothing more than just fodder for other bigoted right wingers to watch and be like, hell yeah, get them. And she seems like the epitome of a pick me. I mean, that's literally the only video I ever saw from this lady, and I didn't even watch the video itself. I watched someone else responding to the video, but I pretty much got the gist of the video. You know, she's pretty much saying, "Oh, you're gonna go to hell. You must repent now." Like, realistically, who is it gonna convince if someone is already, comfortable when it comes to their gender identity and or their sexual orientation? Why would they even care what someone like you has to say? It's the same song and dance all the fucking time. You're going to hell. You must repent now because of your wicked lifestyle. Like, yeah, it's the same exact talking points that they've heard to ad nauseum at this point. And again, like I said in the video, I find it so funny that a woman who looks like her is saying all of this shit, because if you watched her video, she just she just a fucking she looks like a fucking leftist goth girl. Like I said, not to say there's anything inherently wrong with that look. I'm just saying the look juxtaposes what she's saying in her video. Like, there'd no doubt be some boomer Christians who she's trying to appeal to who would say the way she dresses, the way she looks is inherently sinful, and she must change the way she appears. She needs to be more modest or dress more traditionally. The Rightoids turned Pride Month into their own nationalist celebration of Germany here. They call it Stolzenmat. I'm sorry, I don't speak a lick of German, so, and think it's a hilarious meme. Yeah, I mean, this has pretty much taken the world by storm. Well, I shouldn't say that. I mean, at least here, the anti-LGBT bigotry isn't exactly a winning issue with voters. Like I've brought up time and time again, midterms in 2022 were supposed to be a red wave. We didn't see that red wave because most of the talking points the GOP stuck to in 2022 were just talking about trans people, talking about LGBT people, and it turns out most of the voter base doesn't give a shit about topics like those. They want, actual discussion of real policies, which the GOP does not have at all. But even still, I mean, when it comes to at least, the most brazen right wingers, it's definitely become like their latest fixation, LGBT people and whatever they deem as degeneracy. Would you say old amazing atheist laid the groundwork for reactionaries without TJ knowing at the time? At the time, he didn't know, at least, but he's definitely aware of that now. He literally made a video like a year or two ago where he talked about his impact when it came to the LGBT community, anti SJW community. He credits himself for essentially birthing that community. Now, how true that claim is, I don't exactly know. For all I know, there are some people who predate him who made anti SJW ish content, or at least made content that leaned in that direction before him. But he was definitely maybe not the very first or one of the first, but definitely one of the first prominent channels to make that kind of content. And I mean, I don't watch TJ that much these days, but I don't hate the guy. But his channel definitely has that, it definitely made a big impact when it comes to political discourse online, where it's plagued with anti woke shit and overall bigotry in general. Because I mean, I don't think he himself was necessarily bigoted back then, or at least genuinely bigoted, but he definitely made content that appealed to those types of people, and I'm sure it was the inspiration for many channels to make that kind of content. People who are genuinely bigoted or very right wing. So yeah, that probably does tarnish his legacy quite a bit for being at least one of the people to lay the groundwork for the anti woke channels and anti LGBT bigotry being so mainstream when it comes to the Republican Party and such. Because again, I don't think it's all TJ's fault, of course, but his channel definitely helped popularize that kind of content. Maybe not his videos directly, but other people who were inspired by the type of videos he helped make popular. You know, those channels radicalized their audiences and has definitely, made an impact when it comes to what issues the GOP decides to focus on. Again, trans people, LGBT people in general. But again, he kind of acknowledges this. He does, like I said, he does have a whole video discussing like how he essentially made the anti SJW genre of videos popular. I mean, he credits himself as being like the inventor of that genre, but TJ tends to always speak very highly of himself. The dude has a massive fucking ego, so I wouldn't exactly take his word at face value when it comes to creating the genre. I think it's more likely that, he was definitely one of the people who helped popularize the genre and one of the pioneers of the genre, but I don't think he's the sole pioneer of it. It's just funny how certain people have not moved on from the 2016 anti SJW shit, though. Like that fucking New Norm show. The entire fucking premise of the show is trans people, am I right? Pronouns, am I right? And with no real punchline beyond that. Like what is the joke aside from you don't like LGBT people? Like it was pretty much the helicopter joke over and over again without explicitly saying the helicopter joke. I'm surprised that wasn't thrown in there, but you know, it's still pretty much in the same ballpark. Hello, bother me none. How you doing? Yeah. fashionably late. Usually, you're like one of the first people to hop on these streams, but whatever. I'm not. Of course, I don't take issue with that. Feminist Getting Owned compilation. I remember when those were really fucking big back in 2016. I used to watch some of those, regrettably. And I think there actually are some channels who still make those fucking videos, if you could believe it. Oh god, remember cringe compilations? I remember those were really big back then too. Essentially, you take someone else's video and a bunch of other people's videos, compile them, and add no commentary, usually just show those videos uncut, unedited, essentially stealing content and just calling it a cringe compilation. I smoked a joint with my friend Landon today in the woods. Nice. And I was in the city yesterday. You seem busy. I once got a video on my recommendation saying woke people getting owned or some shit, and I clicked not interested. Yeah, I get shit like that recommended to me time and time again. And I usually do the same as you. I click not interested, but no matter how many times I click not interested, that content is bound to pop up in my feed again. Even when it comes to completely innocuous content, like nothing that has any political leanings or anything of the sort. Even if it's like just some dumb shit post that I'm not interested in seeing, or YouTube decides to recommend me a whole bunch of someone's videos, and I'm not interested in that channel, and I click not interested in this channel, videos by that channel are still bound to pop up in my feed. So I don't even know how well the not interested button even fucking works on this website. Because again, no matter how many times I click not interested on a certain type of video, or not interested when it comes to when it comes to a specific channel, sooner or later the same videos or the videos by that same channel are bound to get recommended to me anyway. It's funny though how Dave Rubin was picked as the woke non-binary caricature. Don't know how he isn't disgusted that he's seen as a caricature by conservatives, because Dave Rubin doesn't have any standards, doesn't have any self-respect. He's only interested in getting as much money as he fucking can, and he knows that it's way more lucrative to pander to the right than it is to pander to the left. That's why he doesn't care that they see him as nothing more than a punching bag, all because he's gay. Again, he just goes to wherever the fucking money is. And I don't know how well the fucking Norm show is paying him, but it must be a good amount of money. I mean, doesn't it have Elon Musk's funding behind it? It definitely doesn't show, but you know. Oh, my computer's telling me it needs to charge. Hang on for a second. Sorry, the wire was tangled. Yeah, there are actually still channels that do it whenever I see them, I can't be anything but morbidly bored. Yeah, even if I'm like so fucking bored to the point where I just watch anything, I still wouldn't watch those fucking videos. I'm not a complete leftist either, but wokeism is something I don't take seriously at all. Like, why is it woke to begin with? Is it pro sleep? I assume you're joking, but yeah, I mean, if being anti woke meant being pro sleep, then I'd definitely be part of the anti woke crowd because I much prefer being asleep than being conscious. Matt Walsh is going on a crusade against Matthew Shepard, from what I've heard. Why? Did Matthew Shepard say or do anything? Well, I assume they said or did something, but what exactly is it that that Matt Walsh takes issue with? I actually don't even fucking know who Matthew Shepard is. Someone who died in 1998. Okay. Unless you're talking about someone else. Matthew Shepard was a gay American student at the University of Wyoming who was beaten, tortured, and left to die near the Laramie on the night of October 6, 1998. Oh. Well, yeah, this probably is who Matt Walsh is talking about, and let me guess, he's saying that the hate crime that was committed against him was based because he has absolutely no shame in his bigotry, even though his bigotry is so brazen to the point where he would excuse and condone hate crimes committed against people he doesn't like. Speaking of hate crimes, I came across this tweet from Libs of TikTok the other day. Shared it on my Discord server. Where is it? Here it is. It's a picture from, I guess, an Instagram story of a young girl who was just beaten, and under it is a caption that says, "Just got put in a headlock and thrown to the ground by my grandpa, all because I asked to be called they them." And Libs of TikTok, right, in response to that, writes, "Based grandpa." Like these are the same people who go on and on about protecting the youth, unless the youth is part of a group of people they don't like. In that case, they condone violence inflicted upon the youth or any kind of harm inflicted upon the youth. Again, if they're part of a group of people they don't like. It's just stupid weaponization that has no real meaning. They just use the kids as just an excuse to, be as bigoted as possible, try to cloak their bigotry as something noble, try to make it seem like something that, that's a legitimate concern of theirs and not just rooted in, again, irrational bigotry. These people don't fucking care about kids at all. The twin has appeared. Oh, because her name is Mikey as well. Oh, hello. How you doing? Same woke should remain the past tense of wake. Yeah, that's what it should remain as. Well, originally woke, as we know it, started off as a term people of color used to describe usually white people who were aware of injustices inflicted upon people of color and marginalized communities in general. And then at some point, the right took that term and completely fucking shat all over it and just made it just distorted it into a blanket term to describe anything they don't like involving minority groups. Don't know how channels like The Quartering are taken seriously when he's clearly clueless on a lot of the stuff he talks about. Because people are fucking stupid, especially people who watch channels like The Quartering. I'd say his audience is even dumber than him. The Quartering is a bumbling fucking idiot, but what do you say about the people who actually watch channels like him and take him seriously? They have to be on an even higher level of stupid than he is to even think that someone like him is fucking smart. There was this really dumb controversy about how Gen Z is allegedly canceling Eminem when in reality that never happened. It's just millennials with insecurities. I didn't hear about this controversy. I know Eminem came out with an album recently, but I haven't listened to it. Or at least I haven't listened to any of the singles from that album. I don't know if the album itself is out yet. I think it is. Yeah, I released today actually, July 12th. Maybe I'll listen to it. Maybe I won't. I don't know. Used to be a really big um, Eminem fan some years ago, but I kind of fell off. Back when I was on a really big rap binge, I wanted to take a break from listening to rock and metal all the time, mostly rock, classic rock to be more specific. Wanted to take a break from that and listen to some other genres, and I tried rap out, and Eminem was one of those rap artists I got really into, but in recent years, I just kind of fell off from listening to rap. Not because I hate the genre necessarily, it's just a genre that I found out that I, realized I wasn't that into. Again, no disrespect to the genre itself. I mean, there are some very stupid rock fans I've come across that say rappers have no talent. They don't play any instruments, so therefore they don't have any talent. Yeah, okay. That's a really stupid generalization, but whatever. It's usually just, brain dead boomers who say shit like that. Might as well make the kids a scapegoat. They are a scapegoat. These are the kids is always what these fucking conservative anti woke people, run to as a shield to justify their bigotry. They say we're not bigoted. We're actually just, our crusade against trans people is rooted in protecting the kids. And it's really not. Again, these people don't fucking care when trans youth have hate crimes inflicted upon them or even die. They're at the point where they're openly celebrating that shit. They misunderstood his lyrics, talking about how the old Eminem would think today's world is silly, and they thought that was dissing Eminem. I remember when Eminem did that diss track against Donald Trump, the awfully hot coffee pot thing. People were saying Eminem used to speak for us. Eminem used to be against the woke mob when the dude literally had songs that were bashing the Bush administration back in the early 2000s. Like, he was never exactly secretive when it came to his political views. And they thought Eminem was dissing Gen Z for that lyric that never even mentioned Gen Z. What lyric exactly are they talking about? From what song? The quartering has been on a crusade defending Dr. Disrespect too. Yeah, that too. Totally for protecting the kids. Rushing to the defense of someone who literally fucking admitted that they had inappropriate interactions with a minor. Yeah, definitely a crusader for the children. I've been listening to How's That by Sherbet and I Do the Rock by Tim Curry lately. LOL. I think I heard of Tim Curry. It's easy to use fear to dictate what others can do to themselves. Yeah, again, they try to make, their whole anti-LGBT crusade be this noble cause, but thankfully most people don't give a shit or just, see through that shit. Eminem put out a song that sucked and it got backlash and fans are desperately trying to defend it. I haven't heard any of the singles from his new album or any song from his new album, I should say, since the album is out now. Again, I might listen to it, I might not. I don't know. I'm not really. I mean, I like my share of modern Eminem. People say he sucked after the Eminem show, but there's quite a few songs from albums that people don't like that I enjoy. Like I never hated Relapse like a lot of people do. I mean, I'm not crazy for that album either, but I don't think it's awful like a lot of people seem to think. Or Help Revival. Never minded that album either. I mean, it has some songs that fucking suck, but I mean, for the most part, I thought that album was just all right. Quite a few people didn't like Kamikaze either. I liked that album. Sometimes I wonder what the old me would say if he could see the way shit is today in his newer song Houdini. Yeah, I haven't heard it, so I can't really give any comments about the song. But yeah, I've heard a lot of mixed reactions about his newest singles, though. I've seen some people say it sucks. I've seen some people say, "Oh my god, this is better than a lot of the shit he's put out in years." I don't know what to believe. Maybe I should actually listen to the fucking song. But the most I've paid attention to rap in recent times was Kendrick Lamar and Drake's beef. And even then, I didn't really pay that much attention to that because I don't listen to either artist. I hear so many great things about Kendrick Lamar, though. I should probably listen to him one of these days. At least give him a try. Drake, I mean, every song I've fucking heard from him is garbage, so I have no interest in checking out his discography. But Kendrick Lamar, I hear a lot of really, really good things about. What the fuck does this have to do with Gen Z? I mean, the line you posted seemed to be more about the world itself or like the state of the world more broadly than just focusing on one specific generation. I don't know how you could really construe that into some anti-Gen Z line. Relapse is my third favorite album from him. Yeah, I know some people who really like Relapse. Seems to be one of those albums you really like or really hate. His audience seems pretty divided when it comes to Relapse. The charges against Alec Baldwin have been dismissed. Oh, is this right off the press? Hot off the presses, I should say. I haven't really actually been keeping up with Alec Baldwin and the whole thing where he accidentally killed a crew member on one of the movies he was in. You would think after something similar happened with Bruce Lee's kid way back in the 90s. What was his name? Brandon. He died because there was a loaded gun on set for some goddamn reason. You'd think film studios would have learned their lessons to not bring real, real loaded weapons on set, but apparently not. I would hope this would be the Alec Baldwin case would be the turning point, but I wouldn't be surprised if something else like this happens again in the future. I think Relapse is a lot better than both Encore and Recovery. Encore, I really liked when I first listened to it. A lot of the songs that a lot of people hated off Encore, I personally enjoyed when I first listened to it. But I remember re listening to Encore like a year ago, and I mean, it still has its share of songs that I enjoy, but I really, I mean, some of the songs that I liked back then that I didn't understand the hate for, I absolutely do understand the hate for now. Like that one song, My First Single, with that fucking clacking um, instrumental. I mean, I don't know how I thought that shit was listenable back then, but I did. Recovery, though, I've always really liked. When it came to modern Eminem albums, or at least like post Eminem show albums, I've always found that to be the one I go back to the most. Maybe it's also due to the memories I have surrounding that album, not because as a kid I listened to the whole album or anything, but singles like Love the Way You Lie and Not Afraid were fucking inescapable when that album came out. And I actually like those two songs, so I'm not saying that necessarily as a bad thing. So, I kind of associate that album from, when I was, I don't know, like 9 years old or whenever that album came out. Drake's music is a garbage dump, in my opinion. It is. It is. I also can't fucking stand Drake's voice. Always found his voice to be fucking obnoxious. Some of the most shallow shit I've ever listened to. Drake's music. The Marshall Mathers LP and Eminem Show are the best. Oh yeah, absolutely. Those two albums are masterclass. Especially Eminem Show. A lot of people prefer Marshall Mathers LP, but I've always liked Eminem Show more. And Rudy Giuliani's bankruptcy case was tossed out, meaning he's going to have to pay up. Get fucked, loser. No tears will shed from my eyes for Rudy Giuliani. Relapse is a strange mix of modern and old Eminem. It was kind of the bridge album. I mean, it came out after a little hiatus after Encore. So, again, it was kind of the bridge between his old stuff and his newer stuff, because I'd say Recovery was definitely the first full-on modern Eminem album. Drake and Kanye go hand in hand in degeneracy. At least with Kanye, you can say at one point at least he made good music. I hear nothing but bad things about his music now. I heard his album that released recently was awful. I mean, I don't know. I don't really listen to Kanye, even the good stuff. I mean, I've listened to some of his classic stuff, and I never really got that much into it. I mean, I understood the appeal, but it was personally not my thing. But at least with Kanye, you can say at least at some point he had talent and made good music. Drake, has he ever fucking made good music? Because for the past over 10 years or however long he's been popular at this point, every song I've heard from him, and trust me, I've heard my share of Drake songs, usually against my will, because a lot of my friends in high school listened to shit like Drake and, a lot of the hip hop stuff that was popular back then. I mean, hip hop is still popular, of course, but, I've heard my share of, popular artists, and from, mainly my friends from high school who blast their fucking music all the time. And Drake is one of those artists, and I never fucking heard a Drake song that I enjoyed. Never. Like, I had this friend, his girlfriend back then, loved Drake's music. Loved his music. She'd always fucking blast his music, and every song I have heard from her that was by Drake, did not like. My little brother is the same age as Relapse. It came out in 2009, right? Relapse. I forget when exactly in the year Relapse came out, though. Like month and day, I mean. Kanye really fell off. Yeah. Not only just in terms of his music, but also in terms of his mental state. Recovery came out in 2010. Yeah, I figured that's around the time Recovery came out. I was 9 back then. The radio would play nothing but Love the Way You Lie and Not Afraid back then. Those two songs dominated that summer. And again, I like those songs, not even just as a guilty pleasure thing. I genuinely like those songs. Actually, I don't even know if those two songs are hated, but I personally like them regardless of what other people think. Relapse came out in 2009. Oh, so I was right. Drake's music gives off unauthentic corporate rap vibes. I mean, isn't that exactly what Drake's music is? Just corporate rap, corporate safe rap music that's that is going to be good for the airwaves, but not actually good music. That you could elicit any meaning, any deeper meaning from, or anything of the sort, or challenge you in any sort of way, or just, be interesting in any sort of way. It's just generic fucking garbage made for the radio, made for TikTok, made for, to be the next viral hit. Again, it's just vacuous, shallow music that I do not get the appeal for. The type of rap music your elementary school would play. Yeah, I'd imagine that's the exact target demographic Drake's music appeals to. Happy 420. Well, it's 6:21 for me, so about 2 hours off. Of course, most places would rather play generic Drake over Eminem, Ice Cube, or anyone better. Yeah, because Drake's music is a much safer bet when it comes to, what's going to be a hit with the audiences or not. Drake's voice is annoying. That's exactly what I was saying earlier. On top of his music being, again, vacuous and shallow and generic as fuck. His voice is like fucking nails on a chalkboard. Like a Hotline Bling song that was popular like 10 years ago. Hotline Bling, like I don't get the fucking appeal for his when it comes to his voice or his music in general. 2 hour stream. Oh, 2 hours and 6 minutes. Whoa. Would you look at that? Wasn't even paying attention to the time. All right, I'll read this last message and then I'll head out. I remember when Iggy Azalea's Fancy was playing all the time on the radio. That fucking song, yeah. Dominated the radio waves like 10 years ago, around the same time Hotline Bling did. Did not like that song back when it was popular, and I still do not like that song. Isn't Iggy Azalea a one-hit wonder? I think so. I haven't heard anything else she ever fucking made. Or I don't even know if she still makes music. Again, I have no clue. Goodbye, Mikey. Have a good day. That's a good message to end on. Anyway, I really enjoyed this stream. Had a lot of fun. Thank you all to those who have stuck out for the entire 2 hours, and thank you for those who were here earlier and were not here now. And surprisingly, I held up fairly well considering I barely got any fucking sleep last night. Again, just so much stress going on in my life right now. A lot of bad shit has happened to me this year, and who knows what more bad shit 2024 has in store for me. Fuck this year. Anyway, not to end this stream on a completely sour note. Again, thank you all for making this stream very fun and a nice little distraction from all that is going on in my life right now. Anyway, see ya.